So many questions still doing the rounds on what really led to that crash, and ultimately we will have to wait for the final investigation report to ascertain what exactly happened. But there's been endless speculation based on the preliminary report that's emerged. And I'd like to bring in on this edition of News Track Captain Minoo Ruchi Wadia, founder, president of the Federation of Indian Pilots, a former Air India pilot himself. We also have Mirza Faizan, aerospace scientist and inventor of the ground reality information processing system. Good evening. Thank you very much for your time and for joining us here on India Today. Captain Wadia, I'd like to begin with you on what you make of the Wall Street Journal articles. There are some who say that, look, we shouldn't be pointing fingers right now. This is just a preliminary report. Others say, what's wrong with asking questions about what could have led to this crash?
Well, I'll answer your question very specifically. And what you are probably saying yourself, that there is speculation in Wall Street, speculation here. I do not wish to indulge in any speculation at all. I'll present the facts to you, which are very clear in themselves. First of all, when you blame the pilots, I'll give you a factual presentation of showing you that the pilots have not done anything incorrect or wrong, and this has been purposely manipulated by some Western media to safeguard their own interests. How and why? First of all, the aircraft was perfectly normal when it took off. It had enough power. It took off. As soon as the pilots realized that there was loss of power, and obviously this is something very strange, so they've asked each other, have you done something? Have you put the switch off? And the other pilot has said, no, I have not. First of all, why would you not believe exactly what is being said in the cockpit? Why would you like to presume something which was not said in the cockpit? They have said they have not touched the switches, and that's exactly what happened. The aircraft took off further, and yes, when they realized that it was not developing power and both engines had flamed out, then it is a normal procedure by your training, by your simulator practices, by your instructors telling you otherwise, by something that is to be done by memory, is at that point in time, you put the fuel switches off momentarily and put them on immediately. That is normal procedure. Now, because this was followed, many people are misusing this information to misguide. Further, to establish that this is a correct information, the report itself says that momentarily the one engine did pick up, there was ignition and there was fuel injection. So there was power available at this point in time. However, people should understand and know that all these large engines, the moment you put them on from zero thrust to maximum desirable thrust, it doesn't happen in a flash of a second.
Okay.
It takes almost 8 to 10 seconds for an engine to develop its full power. Here, there was no time for any power to develop. And before the pilots could take any further action, the aircraft crashed. So therefore, the pilots have done absolutely correct actions right from the beginning and have taken no incorrect actions. So cannot be found blameworthy at all to start with. Okay. Secondly, I'll give you my evidence to show that there is misinformation purposely being spread. On not only the first day, the second day itself, some Western media, especially American pilots, came in uniform for effect control, that they are senior pilots with perfect knowledge. And they have said categorically, we have absolute correct information that we know exactly what happened, that the pilot after takeoff, instead of raising the undercarriage, which is a normal practice, he has raised the flaps. And that is why the aircraft sunk, and that is why the crash has taken place. And blaming the pilots for no reason. Now I'll shock you with some further news on the same subject. Today itself, in one of the media, I saw my own photograph with my name saying very clearly that Captain Wadia, who's a senior aviation expert, saying that the pilots switched off and virtually crashed the aircraft. I mean, can you imagine how demeaning can people get? To what an extent can people go to project their theory and to project maybe major aviation concerns? So I am not pointing fingers who's done it, but if I could find out, I will certainly take them by defamation.
No,
To
that's
start with.
absolutely ridiculous, and that itself tells you really that there is a motive behind the kind of pieces that we've been seeing right now, pointing fingers, but it's far too early to do that. But there's one aspect that I'd like to talk about. I'd like to bring in Mirza Faizana on this. New information that came out today spoke about a stabilizer sensor. Mirza Faizan, what do you make of that? Now, there's confirmation that, that was fixed because the red flag was raised before this leg of the journey. And they say that was very much fixed before this started off. Do you think that could in any way, the stabilizer sensor, if there was a problem with that, be actually connected to what happened?
Good evening, Akshita. Thank you for having me. No, at this point of time, I do not think that this crash is a result of anything to do with the stabilizer sensor transducer. This looks like, as all of us know by this time, it's a situation with the propulsion system, the engine shut down, and even as Captain Wadia said, there's an evidence that the engine has been shut down due to the fuel issue. So the stabilizer sensor has no role to play in this, as far as I think, at this point of time.
Can you just explain to us in layman terms completely, so our viewers understand, Mr. Faizan, what exactly a stabilizer sensor actually does?
So what happens is there are different flight control systems on an aircraft, like the aircraft flaps, slats, horizontal and vertical stabilizers, right? Now, the stabilizer sensor actually senses the state of the stabilizer, the machine state, which state it is in, right? And it has to obey pilot's command, and also it's a two-way communication. First of all, whatever pilot commands, it has to obey, and also whatever is the current state, it has to show it on the pilot's instruments, right? So an issue with the stabilizer sensor might present an anomaly in either in the reading or in the command. I do not have detail. We also do not have a detailed information of what exactly was that error.
Agreed.
But this is what the stabilizer sensor does.
And Mr. Faizan, what do you have to say about all of these theories doing the rounds that, the pilot is to blame, that the Captain Sabharwal is the one that should be looked into? What do you make of that?
I totally agree with Captain Wadia. In my opinion, and also hold my initial opinion from day one, I strongly believe that the pilot should be the last person to blame in any air crash. They have their life on line, right? You can blame the pilot only and if only two conditions are satisfied. Condition number one, a thorough investigation has been, technical and engineering investigation has been done about the aircraft, and nothing wrong has been found with the aircraft. That is condition number one. And condition number two, we have a solid evidence beyond reasonable doubt, which points fingers towards a pilot making an error, right? If we do not have both these conditions satisfied, we cannot blame a pilot. There have been many air crash investigations where the result has come out to be unconclusive.
Yeah.
If you don't know, if you're not able to find out, just write down unconclusive, right? Why blame pilots? Let me give you an example of a really interesting air crash. First Airbus A320 air crash. It was a first fly-by-wire plane and it was the first flight. The entire world was watching that. And, this plane crashed. And what happened is there was a clear issue with the design of this fly-by-wire aircraft. But who was blamed? The pilot was blamed. Captain Michel Esselin was blamed because sometimes air crash becomes a matter of prestige for large corporates, for companies. So who is the easiest person to blame? A dead man who's not going to come
Yeah, agreed. There's no one to defend
put
them
his
now.
point.
Easy to point fingers and kind of get it done with, and that's what the question
And my
is.
point
whether,
is,
there
if
are,
I may
go
make one point, I think at this point of time, Indian Pilot Association should send a defamation notice to Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
Tell them that this is not acceptable.
No,
Yes.
that will be strong
And-
messaging.
and-
That
and
will be
a-
strong
and a-
messaging.
And a
I agree.
massive lawsuit they should be looking at
But-
if the final results come.
I
something
agree
else.
with you. I agree with you, Mirza Faizan, that maybe that's the next step to take so that you don't really see this kind of conjecture constantly being thrown around. But it's not just a problem of Wall Street Journal. There are so many portals out there that are continuing to push this theory across. And Captain Wadia, to just kind of shut this down once and for all, I think the question that constantly they keep asking is, why is it that in the cockpit recording, the co-pilot is asking Captain Sabharwal, why did you cut off the fuel switch? And why is the question not, this has happened? Why is the question, why did you? It's essentially over that there's so much speculation of. So what would you say to anyone who says, look, this was the communication, that means he did it, he saw it?
I already answered that question right in the beginning. That's exactly what I said. This is a normal thing. When you see the power not coming up, something has gone wrong. So one pilot asks the other, have you done anything? Have you put the switches off? And they have said, no, I have not. So why would you not believe what they have said 100%? That is for one thing. Secondly, let me go further and explain how this can happen. First of all, and what again by the evidence that you already have on paper, as soon as the aircraft has taken off, the first thing, normally on all departures, the first thing the pilot not flying says, positive rate of climb, gear up. I presume they may have said that. And obviously they must have wanted the gear up immediately. That is maybe in about 30 feet or maybe about 2 seconds of the aircraft taking off. Why did this not happen? The gear was left down right till the end, till it crashed. Why? Well, let me explain. And because this has a lot of snowballing effect on this point also. There's something called a squat switch on an aircraft, on the oleo, which gives a signal to other computers on the aircraft, whether the aircraft is on the ground or in the air. Now, to put it in layman's terms to explain to everyone, what happens if the aircraft is on the ground, there might be some engineers, there might be some mechanics or whoever can make a mistake and come and put the landing gear up. Now, if that happens, if the landing gear goes up, the aircraft will be damaged to a very large extent. The landing gear going up and the aircraft falls on the ground, it will have a major consequences. So to prevent that from happening, that squat switch is placed there to tell the other computers that the aircraft is on the ground, you cannot put the gear up. You do not. So that is one thing. Secondly, to correlate that and with further evidence on similar subject is also as soon as it's taken off, you've seen the rat, that is ram a turbine, come out. And when does this happen? When both engines are failed. So there is established fact that both engines have failed immediately after takeoff. Now we'll get into a realm of speculation if we start presuming why this has happened. Therefore, I'm not going to get into that area, but I will just point out to you that is it possible to happen without the pilots putting the fuel switches off? Yes, it's possible for it to happen.
It is. That's important.
Yes, it is absolutely possible in various cases. And various, even recently, this lady from America, the Director General Mary, has clearly given us some explanation how this happens. See, the fuel switch is only a trigger for informing the other computers that we want the fuel to be on or off. What actually goes on, the FedEx system, the fuel control valves are operated by in a computer manner. Now, if there's a glitch in the computer system, which can happen quite easily, there's no doubt about that. Also, it has actually happened recently in Tokyo with Japan Airlines. What the pilots did after landing, they used the reversers, and this gave a wrong signal to the aircraft that the aircraft was on ground, and both engines flamed out. Both engines shut off on their own without the pilot taking any action or shutting on the switches. So these things can happen. So let us leave this area for the specialists to go into. The DFDR will give a clear indication how this can happen, what can happen. But yes, a lot of things can happen.
Okay, we leave it at that, that we will get a final report. So for everyone speculating, resorting to all of the talk on social media and this engagement, it's not fair at this point to drag the pilots and their families through this, who've been through so much already. It's unfair to resort to this kind of speculation without any concrete proof whatsoever. So let's be patient, wait for that final report to come in before we resort to this kind of speculation, particularly the American media that's running a campaign of sorts right now to do everything but blame it on technical issues, which we can't afford to do right now. Thank you very much, Mirza Faizana and Captain Wadia, for joining us here on News Track.